Now just to show you what I've done here, I have gone and I'm running a report just to see what I get once I configure risks or assets and risk, and I've done the risk management. So if I look at my asset management, here's what I have in my asset management. If I go to manage assets, I see what the system has in it. And here is all the assets that got discovered. I ran the discovery on the lab. You don't have to do that. I just thought it'd be fun to see what showed up. And there's some systems out there. I'm not sure what they are.
I like how they just labeled them all as 10 to 20,000.
Yeah, that's fine. But the ones that I care about are the ones that I manually entered. I know that some of the systems here, these are something that the system already had in there. And then these are the ones that I added for my cloud. I just added 2 cloud servers, one for a file server in the cloud, one for a web-based server. I suppose I could have a second one, call it my cloud backup, and then this would be the more active, up to the minute, real-time file server. I'd probably have an archive server, but I just put 2 cloud-based servers in there. And then I started adding manufacturing devices. And rather than adding one machine each, I just said, well, all my production machines are going to be about the same. I'll treat them as a class of an asset. And that's why I put the cost high, because 1 to 10 manufacturing production machines, and I'm just thinking about the controller electronics running the machine. It might just be a PC that they load the CAD data into the production machine, and that would be what I call the production PC. The production machine itself, you could actually think of that, the software in that. That might be a fancy enough machine to have a login. Probably be more expensive than this if it were the level of logging into the production machine. The firewall, I set that as a separate machine because there's separate vulnerabilities. And I keep thinking, when I set up risk, I have to think about this machine and specific vulnerabilities. The networking router, and then I had a couple servers. As I thought back, I thought maybe I could just call this manufacturing servers 1 to 2, or however many servers I have, since they're all going to be about the same vulnerabilities and risks. I could have probably just classified them as servers and treated that as one asset, just to save me some time in setting up my risk management. So there's my manufacturing, and then I have my research devices. Again, by putting the word research in front of them, they all get alphabetized together. I have my CAD workstations. They're going to have different vulnerabilities than your regular workstations. And then I have my server 1 and 2. I guess what I didn't put in here is research network, because I'm thinking, do I treat the network devices any different whether they're research or manufacturing? And I'm thinking right now that
they're 2 separate buildings.
Yeah.
Probably would, but.
And there's IP material here where the production is maybe not as sensitive, and so yeah, maybe I would have different firewall rules. So yeah, I think I'll add a research firewall in my assets. So I'm just going to go to manage assets, add a new research firewall, because I'm going to be dealing with my researchers. Probably different rules on the firewall than with production. I think production, I have the firewall be much tighter controlled. Nothing can get in. Production, you're not expecting people to go out to the internet. So, but researchers, we're allowing them more access. So I'll just I can make up an address or just leave it blank. And 10 to 20 grand, I'll leave that default. The site, I'm going to put in my research facility site. And team, this comes back to when I'm actually doing management. It'll assign the responsibility to that particular team. So these are teams that were already in the system. I guess I'll put in there information security and IT systems management. I could add more teams if I wanted. This will affect what happens in risk management. So I'll go add that. And I'm not going to do anything with those details. And I click Add. And now when I go to Manage Assets, down there in the Research section, there's my Research Firewall. Now, just in case you wanted more teams, that would be over in Configure, Add and Remove Values, select Team, and I can add more teams or see what teams are there. Looking here, these are the teams that are available. If I want to add a particular team like Research IP Protection, Research Confidentiality, if it's not falling under one of these categories, if you have a separate team handling routers, you could call it, Company Network 2, if it's not just general network. I didn't see the need yet to add any more teams, but to see what teams are there, you can just go here to see. Oh, if I wanted to change a name, that's what's available. And see if I can also add my sites there underneath. Add and remove value sites. See what sites I have. Click here, and I can see I have these sites defined. If you want to have another site, like archival, if that would be a separate facility, or you're just going to treat your cloud as your archive as well. So back to asset management. This is where you start defining what you have, and then thinking about, as I come to risk management, the vulnerability things will come to mind. So I can page through that, add and remove these as I like. Then once I have the assets in there, the next thing is then to come over to risk management. And this is where you'll spend your time and then reporting to management, how are we doing on the compliance. This is the part that it takes a while to figure out, because you just have to see what you get if you enter some things. So if I go to risk management, I can choose a particular mapping of a risk. And they have built-in mappings of risk. And it's like, what are you talking about here? Well, you can choose a particular subject and see, can I see what I have entered already? Let's see here. Plan mitigation. I can add risks. Where are my view my risks that I've already added? Let's see here. If I go to review regularly or plan projects. No, let's see. Perform reviews. No. There are the risks that I have entered, I guess. And here's some set up for regular review. So it looks like if you do perform reviews or review regularly, you'll see what risks you have entered based on the subject you've entered. So here I have entered production workstation gets some kind of malware. Let's go to our research, and let's say we're going to go back to submit risk, and let's choose research CAD workstation. And what risk? We could make it a very general risk. We could say malware, or we could pick a specific one, CAD software, security or file service. I'll just put malware. I could call it ransomware, a specific type of malware, or just in general, this risk on those CAD workstations. You kind of learn about what I should put here as you look at what the next options are, is what kind of risk mapping. And what are they talking about? Well, they're kind of trying to categorize for you, and I'll bet you can add more threats in the configuration, basically giving you what they think of the basic categories of risks. And I look through this risk as I think about my CAD workstation. They're designing new products, and if I get malware on there, how would it affect me? Well, the malware might allow privilege escalation. I think I can add, yeah, I can add more. Will it lose or have loss of integrity? Looks like, well, this could be both. I'm going to click on both of these. I could have both loss, stolen assets, that's IP, as well as loss of integrity. So all of these show up in my risk mapping as things that could happen related to my subject I've chosen. And as we look down through here, what would it cause? Well, reduction in productivity, exposure. Well, let's see here. Let's call it that. Well, they're stealing my or stopping my research and developing products, and I could choose a lot of things here. But that each one of these will pop it up on the what the impact would be. So basically, what you're doing here is each time you click on something, you're increasing the impact on with that particular vulnerability on that particular asset. Okay. Now, what kind of mapping, what kind of threat does it have? Well, let's see here. It's not a, I guess it'd fall under this category of hacking. What are the threats? Natural threat? No, it's not going to be a natural threat. I think I could leave this blank, or I could just throw in it's a man-made hacking or crime. It's cybersecurity crime. They separate that from physical crime. So I'll choose that one as my threat mapping. Category? Well, let's see here. I have to figure out what do they mean. Well, I'd say the best fit is it's sensitive data management. The site? Well, it's only going to be applied to my research facility. And I can give other things, let's see, under control. There's nothing else. I can leave these alone. Let's see, the risk source. Well, I'd say the risk source is primarily external. Scoring method, I've left that alone. I'm not sure what these other scoring methods are. I haven't done any research into that. Likelihood. Now this is where you decide. This is determining your impact on your system, helping to do that calculation for you. Still a little bit qualitative. We chose this based on general knowledge of how this might affect us, leaving that as a qualitative selection. But once I've selected them, there's numbers assigned to them. Current likelihood, let's call it credible or likely. Depends on, I guess, how we feel about how well we're doing with our firewall and our other systems. I'm going to put credible. And the impact, I get to decide, again, qualitative impact. Let's say it has major. Say we're heavily dependent on new products. If we're saying, well, we got 10% of our sales are with what research is coming out with, it may be a moderate. But if we're always innovative, always new products, and CAD workstations critical to our business, I would increase this risk.
Do you have to create all those risks, or what do you see?
No, these are in the system.
You have to.
You just have to select them, and then you select them, and they will add it as you click on it.
So what are you expecting us to do with this? How much is?
Basically, just go through some of your. I guess I'll think of. Basically, I'm thinking go through some subjects. Lay out risk. Maybe I'll come up with some different subjects to lay out the risk for. Maybe we'll talk about that on Wednesday. What subject? I'm thinking, half a dozen subjects just to practice what this gives to us. Now, once I do all that, I can choose my technology that would apply to how to keep it out, or what has to be mitigated if I want to prevent this. Because this also is dealing with, in the risk mapping, what do we do to mitigate? So I'll throw in, well, we're going to have to better firewall our networking issues. Anything else? I suppose it may have to do with the operating system running on the CAD software, on CAD workstations.
Is this?
This is doing how do we deal with it in the whole risk management side of it? This is setting up.
But this isn't submitting it to them. This is
No, this is going in the database. And watch what happens. Once I put this, and I'll just submit the risk. Then when we come over to risk management, or risk, or reports, or reviews, or actually reporting, this will show me. Generally, I can look at risks that I have added to my system over time as I've regularly reviewed this, and I can get some idea of where my risks are. And so this is where my risk dashboards, risk appetite report, this all comes down into where do I put my money into. So basically it's giving you all those dimensions of what is related to that particular risk. How do I decide how important it is? And they're assigning numbers to them. So it's kind of an interesting way this guy put together a system, and it lets us do this same kind of evaluation. All right, we will see you Wednesday.